Oh man, I just knocked over my camera. I'm picking it up. Sorry about that.
Hi my lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. So I've briefly mentioned this before, but a New Year's resolution of mine for 2024 was to revisit shows from my childhood, because I feel like in the past couple of years, because of short form content on the rise, it's been really challenging for me to just like get into movies and TV shows. It's not even that I don't want to watch things, but I just don't have the attention span anymore and it's terrible. So in kind of my attempt to reverse that, I've started with shows that are shorter in length first. So like we covered Making Fiends on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about Blue's Room. Now, I'm a huge Blue's Clues fan. I would say it's no secret, but like I haven't had an excuse to really talk about it on my channel until now. Blue's Clues for me is honestly like easily top 3 shows from my childhood like ever. It's up there with Bear in the Big Blue House, okay? Which is funny I say that because Noel McNeil actually did puppeteer for Blue in Blue's Room. Fun fact of the day that I don't mention in my script for some reason. Anyway, while watching 6 seasons of Blue's Clues itself is still kind of very overwhelming, and also a topic I'm gonna assume is pretty widely talked about, Blue's Room, on the other hand, is not. Honestly, who cares? Because it was still such a treat to revisit, you know, the world of everyone's favorite blue puppy. And the time they decided she could talk. Before we begin, I did want to give a big shout out to Prince Calum, I hope I'm saying that right, on DeviantArt. I know, of all places. Because this user on DeviantArt made a like in-depth researched history of Blue's Room post, and it was actually extremely helpful throughout the like research process. If it weren't for their post, I definitely would have like missed out on a lot of information. I will definitely be referencing their post like throughout this video, so I just want to make it clear. Anyway, with all that out of the way, we can finally get into Blue's Room. Well, kinda, okay? We kind of need to start at the beginning before we get there. Now, I would assume anyone who's familiar with my content would be familiar with Blue's Clues. Blue's Clues is a noggin show that joined the Nick Jr. preschool programming block on September 8th of 1996. The show followed the human host Steve in Storybook World at the Blue's Clues house, as it's known as, with all of our favorite pals that we got to know over the years. Every episode there would be some kind of problem at hand to solve, and as viewers, we were encouraged to join in, with the objective being to help Steve and Blue find 3 clues, aka Blue's Clues. However, when bringing up the beginning of the show and where it is now, we have to acknowledge Blue isn't just Steve's puppy. Over the years, we've saw 3 different human hosts for the show: Steve, obviously, Joe, and more recently, Josh. Even though Blue's Clues only amassed 6 seasons, officially ending in 2006, the show managed to really remain popular, and is arguably one of the most, like, infamous kid shows of all time. I can personally attest to this as someone who is Gen Z, born in 2005, right before the show ended. I always assumed until now that like it ended much like later in like 2010 or 2011, just because of how fondly I remember this in my childhood, and like everyone around me knew Blue's Clues. So it wasn't shocking at all when the show got revived back in 2019 with Blue's Clues and You. And on that note, I do want to highlight Blue's Big City Adventure, which I watched back in 2022 when it first came out. And getting into the spirit of this video, I ended up rewatching it even though I didn't necessarily need to at all. If you're nostalgic for this show like I am, I 100% recommend the watch. Honestly, it's peak cinema, and it's a super cute movie where all the hosts, they basically come together to support Josh, the newest host, in his Broadway dreams as he forgets his handy dandy notebook, which has the address for the theater that his Broadway audition is at in it, so he doesn't know where he's going. This film was also in honor of the show's 25th anniversary. Anyway, with that being said, you're probably thinking, what about Joe? The only host I haven't really mentioned is him, because he is like the big focus of this video. Well, not necessarily, but he's in Blue's Room. As we know, Steve would make his departure from the show in spring of 2002 with a string of 3 episodes. During season 4, titled Joe and Tell, Joe Gets a Clue, and Steve Goes to College. From that point on, Joe, who is Steve's brother canonically, would take over as Steve leaves for college. But in reality, despite the rumors you may have heard throughout the 2000s, Steve's actor, Steve Burns, was just struggling with mental health, specifically depression, and had to make a really hard decision to step away sort of abruptly because of it, which Steve has since addressed in a 2021 video that was tweeted out by Nick Jr., which has almost 2 million likes. Like, that's the impact of Blue's Clues, which I think 99% of people probably ugly cried to. If you did not, you either don't have a heart or you're lying. But yeah, Steve has zero like resentment for this role. He actually appeared in Blue's Clues and You as recent as 2023. And actually this past weekend, as I'm filming this, all three of the Blue's Clues guys and the creators of Blue's Clues, they went and appeared at a convention. I'm like forgetting the name of which one right now, but in their post where they announced it, they actually kind of hinted towards more of events like this in the future.
I mean, who knows? Like, maybe this will be really fun, and maybe the three of us and you can do this a whole bunch of times in different cities this year.
Which is really cool, because if they pulled up near me,
you know I'm going.
I think all of them have done amazing jobs as the Blue's Clues host. If I see any negativity towards any of them in the comments, I am coming for you. When talking about the different eras of Blue's Clues and sharing my nostalgia for the show, I do have to get this off my chest. The host I grew up with, whether you like it or not millennials, was Steve. I'm not one for like the millennials versus Gen Z discourse. I honestly think it's pretty stupid. But side tangent here, I just feel the need to clarify because I've personally gotten so many comments on my videos. And in my videos, I often share like genuine childhood memories related to the topics I'm covering, but every time at least one person will come into my comments and they'll be like,
I can tell you were too young to grow up with that.
It's wild because, wow, we're gatekeeping my own childhood memories now, are we? I'm just tired of like this almost superiority complex because you're older than me and had different experiences when it was never really that serious. As a society, we're going to have to accept sooner or later that, especially for older Gen Z, things overlap between the two generations. Sometimes it's not only 90s kids remember, and it's okay. You'll live, I promise. Sometimes I really do wonder like how old people think Gen Z really is. Because I kid you not, I saw someone doing that like things that would put Gen Z into a coma trend on TikTok, which is just a whole other can of worms. And they said that Gen Z has never pooped without having access to a phone. How old do you think I am? You know what would send you into a coma? My 300 plus Beanie Boo collection that's collecting dust in my attic. Trust me, I get that reruns and like rewatching something on VHS is not the same thing as like a live broadcast as it's happening on TV, but for a child who's watching their friend abruptly leave their, again, favorite preschool show, I don't think it's a reach to say some of us experience that same emotion, especially older Gen Z. But getting back to the point, I didn't mean to spiral like that, guys, but if I was ever going to bring this up in a video, it was going to be this one, because I can just smell the comments from a mile away. Anyway, how is this related to Blue's Room, you may be asking? Well, Joe would go on to host Blue's Clues for 2 more seasons, and Blue's Room didn't come to the picture until season 6. See, originally Blue's Room was added as a like segment of shorts after episodes during season 6, which featured puppets versus the show's like usual animation style, apart from its human hosts of course. I couldn't find very much history-wise in regards to how this spinoff like really came to be. However, one of the Blue's Clues creators, Angela Santamero, did state on her blog, Angela's Clues, that Blue's Room is a spinoff of Blue's Clues where Blue could talk. Kids have been asking us forever if Blue could talk and how they could hug her. So we made Blue's Clues as a place that Blue discovers that is filled with new playroom friends. When she is in Blue's Room, she turns into a 3-dimensional huggable blue puppet that talks.
So Blue's Room came about because we wanted a reason for Blue to talk, and we also wanted our audience to be able to hug Blue, right? We used to get tons of emails about, my kid and wants to hug Blue and what can we do? And so we kind of started thinking about a preschool classroom and what it would look like in our Blue's Clues world, and thinking about all the little activities. The doodle board became that like drawing activity section that you'd have in a preschool classroom, right? The jukebox is our little music section. You have our toys that kind of came to life, and so just little by little all of the characters started to take shape.
So because this had been like a common inquiry from kids, this segment of shorts made it possible that Blue could talk without disrupting the classic format of Blue's Clues. Now there could be a version of Blue that could talk, coexisting alongside the version that didn't. Because why would we even play Blue's Clues if she could talk the whole time? There's just no way. With that in mind, Blue's Room just really seemed like the obvious next step for the show to take in order to continue to profit off the character, and the approach of giving Blue a bigger role within her own show is actually quite interesting and smart in theory. And I know that might be weird to say because of course she's like the main character already in Blue's Clues. The show is named after her. However, compared to Blue's Room, the star of Blue's Clues kind of tends to be the host if you really think about it, because of the interactive aspect of the show. And I mean, there's also other characters that the hosts, you know, Steve, Joe, or I'm gonna say this would apply to Josh too, help out on the show with their problems. So Blue wasn't always the main focus, however, she's very prominent in the show. So yeah, to me, the conclusion I'm coming to is that Nickelodeon kind of saw this as an opportunity after introducing these shorts the last season and decided to take it. With that being said, Blue's Clues would officially conclude on May 10th of 2004 with an episode titled Blue Stock. It wouldn't be until later that same year, on August 2nd, that Blue's Room officially made its debut. Created by Tracy Page Johnson as well as Angela that I mentioned earlier, the plot synopsis on Google reads, a spinoff of the popular Blue's Clues, Blue the puppy and her friends in the playroom, where Blue has the ability to talk rather than just yip. She loves to sing and dance and play with her brother Sprinkles. As we'll get into in a minute when we get into the characters of the show, I wanted to point out how the huge selling point here is Blue's ability to talk. Like, Nickelodeon, they really relied on that, which makes sense due to children's kind of interest in hearing her speak. And I'm not just assuming this based on the synopsis. We see this best in ads for Blue's Room Season 1. After reading the plot, I honestly got really curious before watching like what I was kind of getting into, because I only had like fever dreamish memories of this show. I didn't really. So I took a look at some ads so I could get a better feel and see what I was going into. The first one I watched was for the VHS tapes and or DVDs being sold for the show. Besides her speaking, the show is just advertised kind of as your very own playdate with Blue, and I honestly find that very charming.
In these and other Blue's Room titles, now on DVD and VHS, sing along with Blue, Rory, Polka Dots, and the whole gang. Each features a full-length episode from inside Blue's Room, and you know what that means.
I can talk to you!
That's right! See Blue and all of her friends tell stories, play pretend, and host special playdates.
They even have a full episode in Season 1 that's actually dedicated to hugging, which again ties into the kids wanting to know how they could hug her. Plus, with the puppetry style versus the animation, she looks very huggable, kind of like a stuffed animal. There's an infamous Blue stuffed animal I see all the time and I want really badly. It's like you press her paw or something and she like moves her ears, but immediately reminded me of that stuffed animal when I saw her in Blue's Room. I also can't bring up this point without referencing, you know, the theme song.
Blue Kid Talk!
And Prince Callum brought up this point too when I eventually found their post on DeviantArt and actually pointed out a very specific ad that I hadn't seen. And oh my god, if you thought they were being blatant there, just listen to this ad.
Get ready, get set, let's go. It's Blue talking on video. That's right, the shows are all new. Blue's gonna talk right to you.
I can talk to you! Can you believe it?
Blue talks for the first time ever.
You're my best friend.
It's a whole new Blue and a new way to learn in Blue Talks, a new video and DVD. Talking isn't the only thing different about this puppy.
And after getting into the show, it's almost disappointing that they went this way with the marketing. Because of how charming the cast of characters in the show are, I think it would have helped kids get excited for them too, despite the show, you know, centering on Blue. But maybe I'm looking too much into it. Now, before we get into Season 1, I think it's only fair we go over the main cast of characters, since, you know, they are different for the most part compared to the original Blue's Clues. First, we have Polka Dots, which you may actually recognize. Polka Dots is actually Blue's plush toy who happens to come to life in Blue's room. His first appearance was in Season 5, Episode 11 of Blue's Clues titled Bedtime Business, and his latest appearance was in Blue's Clues and You's Sleepy Sing-Along with Blue. I did see on the wiki that Polka Dots still talks in this episode, but because I had never seen an episode of this reboot besides like Blue's Big City Adventure, I did actually watch the episode, just out of curiosity. First of all, the intro is still catchy and has its own charm, but I will say the 3D animation is definitely something I'll probably never get used to, or the "we just got an email." I don't want to be that person. I sound so annoying even saying that sentence out loud. I don't know why, I just assumed that, you know, it was "we just got a letter." I mean, it is in some instances, but they obviously have to include email now because that's a very, you know, prominent point of contact for a lot of people. A point of communication. I don't know why I was being so formal. Everything I know about this show is I've mostly just seen the merchandise, and I've not cared about it too much. Blue looks pretty similar. There's not too much of a difference. It's more of when you see it on screen. And it's not even that it's an ugly design necessarily. I've definitely seen like worse 3D animation, like reboots. Just kind of unsettling, I guess. I did get more used to it as the episode went on. I also kind of knew this going in because I had seen the movie, but I really like Josh as a host. Like, this guy definitely fits the part, and I'm glad we just have someone who's taking over that's actually doing it justice.
Oh, I am a clue. It's me, Josh. Ooh, I thought maybe Steve or Joe, but Me.
Anyways, polka dots, yeah. So he sounds nothing like the one in Blue's Room, which I should have just assumed, obviously. But it's kind of sad because I do think his voice in Blue's Room is so fitting. And to explain how he can talk, even though in Blue's Clues he's a stuffed animal, there's a lot more lore to it in Blue's Clues and You. In Blue's Clues and You, polka dots is actually a character in Blue's favorite bedtime story, and she can go into the book and visit. She still has a polka dot stuffed animal. She's like shown sleeping with it at one point, but this is definitely still interesting to note, and it's how we hear polka dots talk. Moving on though, next I'm going to talk about Frederica, more commonly known as Fred. Fred is a purple princess doll with yarn hair, and her biggest personality trait is that she loves her birthday. So much so that she loves to pretend it's her birthday every day. I mean, that's a good motto to have. Love yourself. Self-love is important. Prior to Blue's Room, she did not make any appearances besides the very last episode of season 6. I assume as they started to introduce these Blue's Room segments into the show. However, I did make an interesting connection. Out of our cast of characters, Fred has a very distinct character design. And let's think back to who created Blue's Clues. Angela, right? Well, I wonder, what other shows has she created? I mean, Blue's Clues is self-explanatory. My Neighbor Daniel. Okay, cute. Super Why? I try to bring up lost media when I can in videos because it's something that really piques my interest, and bringing attention to things like is my way of helping when I can't or don't know how to directly help. I just really like to follow these searches. It's really interesting. And one search that was going on for quite a while was a search for the Super Why pilot. The pilot was really sought out because it's so drastically different from the final product. The pilot that was made in 1999 uses claymation and has a just completely different art style and vibe with the characters. Luckily, this pilot actually was finally found very recently, only like 9 months ago, I think. And the full thing is actually up on YouTube for viewing. I don't know if you see what I'm getting at here, but I brought this up because Fred, like, very much resembles that, like, early Super Why art style to me. And she immediately reminded me of the pilot, and then I was like, oh, they found it! Similar purple skin, kind of similar, like, yarn-like hair, and the most prominent feature of all has to be Fred's face and eyes. Let me know if you see the similarities in the comments. I just thought this was very interesting to mention, because I really like Fred as a character, and her style of character, like, kind of stands out amongst, you know, the cast and crew here. Then we have my favorite character of the show, probably, Rory the dinosaur. Rory is this bright orange T-Rex who first appeared in Legend of the Blue Puppy on Blue's Clues and then appeared on every episode of Blue's Room since. You'll understand more of what I mean when we get into the actual episodes, but he's just so silly. Like, I love him, and you know, he honestly deserves the world, so I will be defending him in the comments if anyone's a hater. And lastly, we obviously have Blue and Sprinkles. We'll talk about Sprinkles more later when we get to season 2 though. The last character I want to focus on instead is actually Muna, because within the series we never get like a direct explanation on her significance. We briefly touched on the origins of Blue's Room and how it started off as a series of shorts during season 6. These shorts typically played like after their game of Blue's Clues was finished. However, that's not the case for episode 1 of season 6. In episode 1 of season 6, titled Legend of the Blue Puppy, we don't play Blue's Clues. Well, we kind of do, but it's different, okay? This episode instead serves as an explanation for the shorts we'll see throughout the remainder of the season, or an origin story for Blue's Room, if you will. This episode takes place at night as a blue moon is taking place. Muna is actually a moon fairy, and that's why it's tonight of all nights that she came from the blue moon to tell Blue about her legend. Hence the name, Legend of the Blue Puppy. The legend goes that long time ago, when the very first blue moon lit up the sky, that same night there were a litter of puppies that were born. And these puppies were all different shades, okay? Black, brown, gray, white. However, there was one puppy amongst them all that stood out in this litter that was a beautiful shade of blue. And that, of course, was Blue. While the other puppies did typical dog things like bark and dig holes, the blue puppy liked to read and listen to music. She's not like other girls, or should I say puppies. She was an incredibly smart puppy, like the smartest in the land. But there was something else that was special about her too. She was born with a golden key, but she never knew what it was for or why she had it. And that would all change tonight. The night that the blue moon was finally lighting up the sky again, and with that key, she'll be able to now find her greatest gift. I don't know why every time I talk about a blue moon, I think of that fucking Smurf movie. Am I not the only one? Anyway, we soon discover her plush Polka Dots had the golden key in his pocket the whole time, and all she has to do now is find the lock that the key would fit into. The search comes to an end when she finds this little like trinket box that has the same like polka dotted color pattern as Polka Dots, her stuffed animal. So yeah, just think every time we're in Blue's room together, we're trapped in a box in Blue's room at Blue's Clues, the Blue's Clues house. That's quite an unsettling thought. Maybe don't think about that. But on the bright side, we get that extra context of where Blue goes when the playdate ends and why Muna is even alerting her. Anyway, we jump into the box with Polka Dots and Muna to discover Blue's playroom, aka Blue's room. Blue's appearance is obviously very different, along with Polka Dots, who's alive. We do a little twirl around the room, seeing all the wonderful things we can do, and then Muna reveals the greatest thing of all, or Blue's greatest gift, is that now she can talk to her friends. But yeah, that's the gist of it. From this point on, Muna would appear in every Blue's room short and episode of the show. I did not watch all of season 6, but I did feel like this one was very necessary because it's important context. So speaking of the show, I think it's about time we get on into it. Season 1 premiered on August 10th of 2004 with the episode Snack Time Playdate. I know it's weird to consider this a season because there's only 5 episodes, but there's a big difference between, you know, season 2 and season 1. A lot of changes come later on as the series progresses, so I will be referring to it as that. For context that's maybe not needed, I did get a free trial of Paramount Plus so I could watch the show for this video, because oh my god, was it hard to find like the full 2 seasons online. However, that was kind of for nothing. Well, maybe not completely for nothing, but Paramount was missing several episodes and they were all pretty much out of order.
So I guess you could say I was playing my own game of Blue's Clues.
It was pretty humbling to go through all that effort just to have to watch the first 2 episodes through the Internet Archive. Like, why even have the show if you're going to not provide all of the episodes and not have them in order? This show is already so obscure and so hard to find things. You think this would make everything easier, but it did not, in fact. On to Snack Time Playdate though. Episode 1 is, well, exactly like it sounds, a snack time playdate. How Blue's room works is each episode opens with Blue exclaiming that it's time for our playdate and asking us, the audience, if we're ready. After this point, we see the introduction of the playdate spinner, which is used to decide like what will play on our playdate with Blue in Blue's room. And to spin the spinner, the audience is encouraged to blow on the screen. For example, the selection for this episode was snack time. First off, we have a little run-in with Fred, who's chasing after these laughing cupcakes, which is like a running gag we'll see throughout the episode.
Birthday cupcake snack! Where are you?
Then Blue sings a little, and then we're off to our first activity, a Polka Dots puzzle presented by yours truly. Not me, Polka Dots. The objective of this activity is we have to look out for Polka Dots doors to earn puzzle pieces. After this, we meet one of our new friends, Doodleboard, who opens with a little musical number.
Come on and doodle with your favorite crayon. Paper's really fun to play on, drawing circles, squares, and lines of every kind.
Doodleboard suggests that we play a snack-themed Doodleboard game where he draws snacks and we have to guess. After each snack is drawn, because this is a special snack time episode, we then pretend to eat the snack as it gets erased from the board. It's here that I have to say, I did not remember the characters from this show very well, besides like Blue and Sprinkles, but Rory? Rory is adorable and easily one of, if not my favorite character. Like, come on, he is just a little guy. The way he got so excited for the simple pleasures in life, like eating a carrot, it just made me so happy. Like, guys, it's his favorite vegetable snack.
They are my favorite vegetable snack!
The next friend who joins us to eat a snack is Polka Dots, whose favorite snack is pretzels, and then lastly we see blueberry pancakes, which are Blue's favorite since that's her favorite color. After this, we see Fred once again trying to catch her birthday snack, which, might I add, is scrumptious.
Did Fred say scrumptious?
Oh. What's scrumptious mean? Well, good thing you asked, okay? It's here we're introduced to our good pal, Dictionary.
On Dictionary, words are very fun to look up in me.
When Blue is curious what the word scrumptious means, and this happens in each episode from this point on, there's always like a big word for us to learn that ties into the Playdate's theme. We then get a segment from our good friend Dictionary who explains the definition, and then we go on further to usually use the word in the episode, now that we know how to use it. After this, we see another polka dot door open, and we get our second piece of the puzzle before we move on to our next activity, which is dress up with the dress up chest. Which, I'm sorry to be that person, the way he moves his mouth, absolutely terrifying. but I love his vibe. He's chill, and that makes up for it. Now the dress up we play in Blue's room isn't just like any dress up game, but storytime dress up. So we see some items and we have to guess like what book they're referencing. Now when I was watching this, I kind of forgot the reading aspect. So in my head I was just like, oh, haha, if you give a mouse a cookie. And then lo and behold, that was literally the answer. And don't judge me, I was authentically guessing. What was I supposed to do? Ignore everyone? They are talking to me. After the book is revealed, we then read it together while wearing mouse ears and pretending to be mice. It is truly an immersive experience. The Glasgow Willy Wonka experience? You have nothing on Blue's room. When I tell you I haven't read this book in at least a decade, like this segment honestly made me so emotional. I truly love healing my inner child. Like this was such a pleasant surprise. After this we get our third and fourth pieces of the polka dot puzzle to figure out our surprise, which is a snack time party with all our new playroom friends and with everyone's favorite snacks. During this party we also learn how to make polka dot's favorite snack, banana pops, which is bananas on a stick rolled in yogurt and granola. After the party concludes, we then have a scrumptious journal session about all the fun we had today before Muna comes over to alert us and Blue that it's time to go and the playdate has concluded. Cue the ending theme.
We had a way great playdate with you.
Funny enough, based on the party surprise element of the last episode and Fred in a constant chase for her favorite birthday snack, I thought for sure that we were going to shift into a surprise party for her at the end. However, that celebration got its own episode, which deserved. This makes sense, okay? Birthdays are something Fred is quite fond of. This is a running theme on the show, and in this episode, she even admits to pretending every day is her birthday.
Every day I pretend it's my birthday, but today I get to wear my party hat because today it really is my happy birthday.
We open the episode by surprising Fred with her birthday party, obviously, and in honor of that, the word of the episode is celebrate. Then we're on to our first party activity, which is a polka dots puzzle surprise, which is specifically themed for Fred's birthday. The first puzzle piece that we get is a hint to go to the tree, which I have to say, like, the cast in this show did an amazing job. I love all the voices. I love the way that Fred, like, explains going to the tree, and it should not be as funny to me as it is. I don't know why, but Fred specifically is giving me Cookie Swirl C vibes in the best way possible. I grew up watching Cookie Swirl C. That is not an insult.
So it says to go to the tree.
The next hint after that guides us to the dress-up chest where we have to guess, you know, the story. Can you guess? No? It's okay. I couldn't either. Based on the hints, my dumbass was like, oh, Jungle Book. No, it's Little Gorilla. Because in the story, it's the little gorilla's birthday, so it's definitely on theme. Let me know if you remember this book in the comments. I'd actually not heard of this one, so I'm curious. The way the chest narrates this story, though, is taking me out.
Little Gorilla. Story and pictures by Ruth Bornstein. Once there was a little gorilla, and everybody loved him.
And Rory's performance as a hippo. Where's his Oscar?
Oh, there? Yeah, okay. Climb on. Okay. Wherever you want to go, little gorilla, I will take you because I love you.
After the story's over, Fred then receives her final clue, and it's here where I'm confused. If, like, Polka Dot participated in the story, then how did he get in the box?
I don't understand the science here.
Anyway, the next clue is a person dancing, which leads us to one of our friends we haven't met yet, aka Boogie Woogie, who's this like giant jukebox stereo thing of some kind. So as you're expecting, yes, 100%, we do dance with Boogie Woogie to unlock Polka Dot's birthday surprise for Fred. We even do a dance in honor of Fred, okay? Put your hands on your head to make a crown.
Put your hands on your head to make.
After they have some fun dancing, we finally get to see Fred's birthday surprise, which is a new extra special crown, or birthday crown, which might I just add is so beautiful. The episode then ends with Fred enjoying her birthday cake and a birthday song. We help her blow out the candles and then the playdate is over. Moving on to episode 3 titled Holiday Wishes. Yup. We have 2 specialty episodes in a row. The episode air dates, especially for season 1, since there's like so few episodes, are super spaced out. So 3 episodes into the series, we went from August to November to December. We opened to everyone singing Jingle Bells in holiday attire. I absolutely adore holiday themed toys, so you know I love holiday specials too. Because their outfits, are you kidding? Okay, Rory's little earmuffs adorable, Fred's beanie, Blue's scarf, which Joe actually made her last Christmas, and Polka Dot's little hat. I am obsessed with it all. The room even has like some lights and other decor, and it's snowing outside to set the scene. Blue then goes immediately into a song about why she loves spending the holidays with us, which leads into enjoying spending holidays with friends for the holidays, which leads into Joe actually coming for a visit. However, everyone becomes worried considering how hard the snow is starting to come down, so they light a candle outside so Joe will be able to find them. After we get a visit from our favorite Doodleboard, who's also sporting holiday attire to keep his, eyes warm? Good for him! We have a holiday-themed doodle session based on decorations to decorate the Blues room, which included a Christmas tree, a star, and a menorah. I was very happy to see this. Like, even though I celebrate Christmas, a huge pet peeve of mine, as like I've started to rewatch a lot of holiday specials every year from my childhood, they just like always just focus on Christmas. And although because I celebrate Christmas, I still very much enjoy a lot of those specials and episodes, the fact that they only ever mention Christmas really disregards like other religions and cultures looking back at it. As I've gotten older, I feel like every year I'm always finding out about new holidays and traditions, and I always find it really interesting to learn about how everyone celebrates. And I think it's important too because especially with kids, like they will just assume that you celebrate Christmas automatically, and then if you say you don't, they always assume it's something negative instead of everyone just having their own traditions.
And no, this is not snowflake behavior.
I'm sorry, it's a holiday episode. I had to make that joke, but I know damn well one of those people is gonna make their way into my comments section and be angry that I'm even pointing this out.
Gen Z's trying to what? Cancel
Christmas.
Gen Z's trying to cancel
Christmas.
Honey, that's cute.
Anyway, following the decorating, Polka Dots does his usual surprise, gifting us some holiday cookies. Polka Dots does this because his favorite part about the holidays is generosity and or giving, but for word learning purposes, it's generosity, and we visit our handy dandy dictionary. The crew then dances with Boogie Woogie to his favorite holiday song, which is all about our friend Dreidel, and then we get a visit from another friend, a real kid named Antonio. His gift is that he drew a picture of everyone, which they really appreciate, and he even decorated the frame himself. Some might say that's generous. And then to end the episode off, Joe then finally arrives. The candle that they put outside for Joe to find his way stays lit the whole time. It's very obviously meant to symbolize Hanukkah and aids in teaching us some of the history of Hanukkah, and Joe brings everyone presents and they all, most importantly, celebrate together as friends. Episode 4, it's Hug Day. We're back to our usual antics and we blow the Playdate spinner and it lands on Hug Day. I think this episode was based on National Hugging Day, although it premiered on the 25th of January and National Hug Day is on January 21st. We get right into Polka Dot's puzzle surprise for Hug Day, as well as our word of the episode. Polka Dot's hints that we'll be making something for someone we appreciate, so we turn to the dictionary to find out what appreciate means. We then visit our good friend Doodleboard for some appreciation-themed Doodleboard fun. This helps give even more of an understanding to the word, and then after that we see Polka Dots for our next clue. That leads us to Boogie Woogie, where we play a very special Hug Day Boogie Woogie dance game. Instead of dress up with the chest introducing the book for this episode, the book starts chanting, "Read me, read me."
Hey, I think that book wants us to read it.
Upstairs, and the book is titled Hug, so it's very fitting for the episode once again in its theme. We still dress up and act out, just this time Polka Dots brings his monkey hat, which kind of made me emotional.
Because he's just a little guy, look at him.
And I gotta say, Polka Dots' performance of Boho, the sad monkey, we gotta give him his 10s.
Let's be sad monkeys now, like in the book. E-E, ooh, ooh, E-E-E, ooh, 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 E-E-E.
Following this, we get our last piece of the Hug Day puzzle surprise, which reveals a Hug Day card, which Blue gives to us because she appreciates us. Aww. And then Muna alerts us that the playdate has come to an end. Episode 5, Beyond Your Wildest Dreams. Now, the past couple episodes have focused on a lot of things, or how to generalize theme. The theme for this playdate, though, is just dress up. We start off by imagining the room as a jungle, and we're off on a journey to find Rory his lion crown since he's king of the jungle. Speaking of imagine, Polka Dots compliments the viewer's imagination. We visit the dictionary to learn more. That's our word of the episode. Afterwards, we talk about what we like to imagine to kind of open up a conversation and to give us a better understanding of the word. And Blue shares that she's always dreamt of being a fish, which is so funny because like my first ever animal animal related hyperfixation was fish. I had a fish Webkinz, I had a fish pattern dress that we ended up like cutting up and using the pattern as patches for my baby blanket, and I even had fish decor in my bathroom. Anyway, enough about me. The next thing we imagine on our playdate is the ocean, and it looks so cool. Like genuinely, all the ways they've decorated this set blow me away, but especially this one, like they even got the lighting correct. Like I might as well be at the bottom of the ocean. You know how there's a certain percent of the ocean that like we as humans haven't seen? Imagine you go down there and this is what shows up. After this, Polkadots gives us his usual puzzle adventure theme. This is because he loves the book Space Robot Cowboys Away, which we end up taking a look at together, and it's our book of the episode. Along with what I said about the sets, I have to compliment the costume design for the puppets. Like the space cowboy outfits are insanely cool, and Fred's mermaid outfit was so pretty. After we get to the rocket ship and blast off into space, we are on a mission to find space animals, and I have to say, they are quite unnerving. What the hell? The sequence with the space cow wasn't bad, but the floating milk and the echoey voice of the cow felt like a complete fever dream.
That's a space cow.
Anyway, after that, our space cowboy journey comes to an end, and the playdate is now over. Episode 6, Alphabet Power. After our typical wheel spinning theme of the playdate decided intro, like the title Alphabet Power suggests, yes, it's related to the alphabet. That's our theme. And like literally the alphabet ends up coming over to play. Like deadass, they are eagerly waiting for us to let them in the playroom.
Oh, it landed on ABCs. Oh, and someone else is here. Whoa, the alphabet came over to play. Come on in, alphabet.
I was not expecting that, and we get right into it right away with our first instinct being to sing the ABC song. The alphabet then introduces us to the power of the alphabet, hence the name Alphabet Power, starting with spelling, and Blue spells her name using the letters. Polkadots then pops in to give us his usual, polka dot puzzle surprise, this time with the form of a word. And the first letter is R. After this, we play a fun alphabet game with Doodleboard, where he drew the letters and turned them into animal pictures. Huh. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Our next letter Polkadots gives us after this is E, and since we are still unsure of our word, we end up playing another game with our alphabet pals called Spell It, Pretend It. Using the at sound, we spell and pretend to be a cat and then a bat. I was so excited to see bat, like the animal, actually be acted out and not like a baseball player or something, because after I watched that one episode of The Wonder Pets as a kid where they save a bat, I became so hyperfixated on them. They are adorable. I think I was like even a bat once for Halloween. Anyway, Polkadots gives us yet another letter for our 4-letter word, which is an A. And I don't know what it is with people running away from Fred, but after this we have, another run-in with her as she tries to catch the letters of the alphabet this time, and she exclaims, "I want to be a writer."
Back here! Oh, I want to write with you. Oh, I want to be a writer.
God forbid women have hobbies. But Blue doesn't know what the word writer means, so we ask our good pal the dictionary. Despite all the words we spell and talk about in this episode, writer is our word of the episode. Blue then encourages us to write in our journals, and then we get a final letter, which is D, revealing the word read. Then we hear the doorbell ring, and you guys remember Antonio from the holiday special? Well, he's back, and he's brought his favorite book to read, Chicka Chicka ABC. So because there's a tree in the playroom and we have all the letters, we get a really fun segment of, like, as they read these letters going up into the coconut tree, they show, like, our letter pals climbing the tree in the Blues room.
Chicka, chicka, boom, boom.
Shortly after the story ends, we see Antonio and the alphabet exit, and then the playdate has come to an end. And with that, we've completed season 1. Very short, but after completing all of it, I think season 1 was my favorite batch of episodes. Like, I loved the format. Episode 6 aired on September 17th of 2005, and after that point, we saw a brief hiatus for the show. Episode 1 of season 2 wouldn't air until July 27th of 2006, titled Meet Blue's Baby Brother. This episode actually celebrates the 10th anniversary of Blue's Clues as a show, so to many this is considered to be the real final episode of Blue's Clues, despite still being a part of Blue's Room and not Blue's Clues. Now, I haven't rewatched the final episode of season 6, but with the return of so many classic characters in this episode, it truly feels like a proper send-off, like we're moving on to the next era of Blue's Clues. So I definitely think that's a sentiment I agree with. Anyway, I brought this up really because while the episodes of Blue's Room are typically 24 minutes each, Meet Blue's Baby Brother is actually 49. Also in this episode there are some subtle differences right off the bat, obviously, since it's a new season, but I'm gonna focus on that when we reach episode 2 instead, since this feels separate from like the regular format of the show. Anyway, this special opens with a table full of characters we haven't seen on the show previously because it's a special occasion. Why is everyone gathering at Blue's room, you may be asking? And well, it's for a family party, of course, but everyone is still patiently awaiting someone extra special from Blue's family to join. You've probably been wondering, where is Sprinkles this entire time? Well, in Puppyville, of course. This is kind of Sprinkles' origin story. That's why we have to go there and get him for this special family party, only at the time we don't know her baby brother is Sprinkles yet, so spoiler! With that context in mind, the special follows Blue and Joe as they are off on an adventure to Puppyville. The pair end up going around asking people if they are Blue's baby brother, and everyone has the same answer of could be, possibly, maybe. It's just so ominous. You are doing way too much. Please just give an answer. What do you even mean, maybe? So to solve the mystery, we have to go back to our roots and play a very special game of Blue's Clues called Golden Clues, with the same objective, same concept, only everything is golden, and it's the most beautiful thing you'll ever see. They meet this puppy named Sprinkles along the way to the train station who hasn't gotten his spots yet, so Sprinkles ends up tagging along to get his spots while they look for golden clues. For example, when Joe flies away after grabbing some balloons that had the first golden clue on them, we get in this taxi and we have to sing the ABCs in order to make the taxi drive, since our first stop in Puppyville was Alphabet City. And then when Sprinkles learns to sing the ABCs through this, he gets his first set of spots, which are pink. When they finally catch up with Joe, with the help of Alphabet Puppy, we find out our first clue is the word puppy, and then Joe writes it in our handy dandy notebook. Now I'm just realizing I might have started saying handy dandy because of Blue's Clues, and I just never realized that till now. The impact this show had on me was tremendous, okay? Anyway, the next step is Color Town. This time the gang meets a color puppy and they have to fix a rainbow to get their next clue. During this, Sprinkles learns his colors and that earns him some more spots that are this time orange. After everyone rides the rainbow to Number Kingdom, we actually meet a princess and our golden clue has gone inside her castle. Because this is Number Kingdom, the doors of the castle are number based and need us to clap a certain amount of times in order to open them. In the process of this, Sprinkles learns his numbers, which helps us get into the final door. The final door was like the math problem 6 plus 3, so Sprinkles counts all the jewels around the door and it comes to the number 9. After 9 claps, the door then opens and Sprinkles gets some purple spots and we get our golden clue, which I know Chica came after this probably, but the noise the clue was making still reminded me of her.
It's where?
Anyway, this second clue was circles, and with that the crew was on to find their final golden clue, so we could finally sit on the golden thinking chair. The final destination was Shapes Forest, where we meet a Shapes puppy, and to get the clue we have to cross this body of water because it's on the other side, so we have to make a boat using shapes. Obviously, being in Shapes Forest, this was very easy. In the process, Sprinkles even learns his shapes, which helps him gain yet another set of spots that are yellow. With that, they sail across, and then the last clue ends up being the colors pink, purple, and orange. After this, we finally get to take a seat in the infamous golden thinking chair, and it's revealed that obviously Sprinkles is Blue's little brother, and with that discovery, Sprinkles actually gets his last set of spots, which are ironically blue, just like Blue. With that, the trio heads home to introduce Sprinkles to the rest of the friends and family, so the family party can finally begin. Moving on to actual season 2 of Blue's Room. Titled Blue's Farm Playdate, we finally get a feel for the differences between the two seasons. I know we see this intro in episode 1, but in episode 2 we see the whole sequence with Sprinkles now that he's a part of the show, so it's really like we're seeing this new intro sequence officially for the first time, seeing it in all its glory. This brings us to our first big change. No more like blowing the spinning wheel to find like themes for the episodes. We no longer even pick themes. Like, yes, the episodes are themed, but they're just established as soon as the episodes begin. When we see the house, Blue pops out of the window on one side telling us hi and what she and Sprinkles are playing, and then Sprinkles pops out on the other to greet us and welcome us into the playroom.
Hi, you. We're playing farm.
Hello, come on in.
So way more cut and dry than before. Another change is right away in this episode we do see Joe's presence yet again as he sings Old MacDonald Had a Farm. I will admit I was definitely confused by this change considering like him only making one appearance prior. Well, prior if we don't count season 2 of Blue's Room and that 10th anniversary episode. Although in this episode he's not around as much, leaving shortly after because he has some errands to run. Joe still takes on a bigger role this season, it's very apparent, and he appears in literally every episode, just not as the main host like in Blue's Clues. Blue is still the main main character of her own show. Anyway, because of him running errands, Blue and Sprinkles are then tasked with taking care of his animals. This includes things like collecting eggs from chickens, milking cows, feeding pigs, and horses. As the pair make their way through all these tasks, we see this cool like cardboard animation stuff for the animals, and then we look out the window several times and we see Joe slowly making his way back. So as you can tell, yeah, this brings back the problem-solving aspect of Blue's Clues that Blue's Room didn't have, but didn't need to have, in my opinion. Like, obviously it's a good educational thing, but it wasn't like we weren't learning anything in this show. It was just more focused on like, let's have fun with Blue on a playdate. Another difference that I noticed is the end of this playdate like doesn't happen. The episode ends, sure, but not by Muna alerting Blue or us. Since the activities that happen in the episodes are a lot more task-based, we naturally just know when the episodes are coming to a close now. Muna is still there. She still appears in every episode, in the intro. It's not like they got rid of her, but I was definitely still confused as like why this change was made, especially considering Legend of the Blue Puppy. We did all that. I guess if we consider Meet Blue's Baby Brother, the special, feeling more like a proper close to Blue's Clues, she wouldn't need to go back to Joe anymore in the Blue's Clues house when he's in the playroom with her. Something that got removed as well was the word of the day or word of the episode segments along with the dictionary character. Personally, this one confused me probably the most because I really liked that segment, and I can imagine that it was really beneficial for the actual kids watching. That was like the biggest learning aspect of Blue's Room.
And then they took it away.
Like, this is exactly the type of learning that came to mind when I was discussing like problem-solving aspect of Blue's Clues not being needed in this show necessarily. Moving on to episode 3, I know, I definitely have a lot less to say about these episodes than the last season. We open to Blues and Sprinkles playing shape detectives, hence the name of the episode, which involves them looking for shapes. Shapes all around. Shapes are lost, then they're found. They walk into the shape agency and they meet up with Joe and Rory. Rory presents a shape painting he made to the group, but then the shapes escape the canvas, and then the shape detectives have a job to complete. Last episode, we saw the absence of our favorite little guy, Polka Dots, but don't you fear. He is a presence in this episode and continues going forward with his typical Polka Dots puzzle game, although it's not as consistent as before. It's not even necessarily like a puzzle game anymore, but he still has surprises and he pops in and out of his little doors. He just verbally says clues usually too, like the first clue being that the circle is hiding with the other circles, whatever that means. But as we hunt for the circles, we actually get this really cool like POV mode of us searching the playroom with a magnifying glass. It's kind of like a game of I Spy. For our next clue, we meet up with the doodle board, and apparently the rectangle jumped into one of his pictures, and that's how we're going to find it. After finding it, they discover the triangle is also hidden in one of Doodleboard's drawings, and now all that's left to find for Rory's painting is the pentagon. Luckily, Fred calls in with a tip, mystery individual calls in with a tip, saying they know where the pentagon is. So the shape detectives are on the case, meeting her at a lamp post that just showed up inside the playroom.
We hear you know where the missing pentagon is.
How did you hear that?
From you. You just called us.
Fred gives them an envelope from the Pentagon, stating to find out where it is, Blue must solve a riddle. What is an octagon that is red and has the letters S-T-O-P? They go to the stop sign and now there's a riddle for Detective Joe. What food do you get with 3 circles and a triangle? My dumbass was thinking a slice of pizza, but it was in fact an ice cream cone, which they found Polka Dots enjoying, and it's here that they get the last riddle, which is for Sprinkles to answer. What do you get with a circle, a long rectangle, and 2 little rectangles? After the riddle's solved, with that, the shapes are all back together and the case is closed. Moving on to episode 4, similar to Fred's birthday that wasn't even on streaming services, I did have to watch Masterpiece Museum through the Internet Archive. Masterpiece Museum though is an arts and crafts episode. In fact, we open to the siblings actually drawing pictures of each other. And throughout this episode, they actually learn the concept of an art museum from Polka Dots, and they decide to create their own. They start with pointillism, enlisting Doodleboard for help. Then for the sculpture exhibit, they enlist Joe for help, who happened to already be making a sculpture out of clay. So step by step, Joe ends up showing us how to make a coil pot, which is really cool. I almost wished I had clay so that I could join in. I'm gonna put some of my ceramic creations from high school on screen because I've shown videos of my room on other social medias and people really liked them. There's multiple pedestals for the sculpture museum, but Blue puts hers on a pedestal while Fred and Rory put their own creations on other spots. Then finally what is left is the masterpiece exhibit. Sprinkles feels unsure that he's even ready to make a masterpiece, so we get a visit from Color Puppy, who helped us in Puppyville previously in the search for Blue's baby brother. We then take a look at some famous masterpieces like the Mona Lisa or Starry Night, and just many others, some that I hadn't even seen before, so very educational. But in Sprinkles' canvas there ends up being this like sad little boy trapped, and to make him happy we use the aspect of all these famous masterpieces in our painting, like Van Gogh's swirly clouds in Starry Night or Picasso's use of shapes. After Sprinkle finishes, the Masterpiece Museum is then complete and open for viewing. We see a lot of familiar faces at the door waiting to view it, like Rory and Fred, but also the Number Princess and ABC Puppy. I love art, so honestly that was one of my favorite episodes from this season. On to episode 5, Sprinkle's Sleepover. Just like the title suggests, this episode is all about Blue and Sprinkles having a sleepover. But as we're watching them go to sleep, Sprinkles can't seem to sleep because he's not sleepy at all. He is just like me for real. So Blue suggests we play a sleepy game to help Sprinkles get tired before going to bed. So reading a bedtime story or counting in your head are some examples. And we go through and we see everyone's different sleepy time games, because unfortunately Sprinkles doesn't have one. So we're on an adventure to find him one. First we talk to Rory, whose sleepy game is reading, and tonight he's reading How Do Dinosaurs Say Goodnight, which is such a throwback. I remember these books. My favorite one of these books was How Do Dinosaurs Eat Their Food. I just remember that there was a dinosaur eating spaghetti or something. I thought it was really funny. So Blue ends up reading Rory the story so he can get sleepy, and it works for him, but not for Sprinkles. So then they decide to visit Doodleboard, who draws pictures of things he wants to dream about to help him feel sleepy. Sadly, this does not work for Sprinkles either, so the pair continues on their way, asking Joe what helps him sleep. Joe likes to count in his head to fall asleep, so he counts Boris's, which is his stuffed animal duck, for the fake fans. Sprinkles tries this method and counts Blue's in a sailboat, but it's to no avail. Luckily, we haven't seen Blue's sleepy time game yet, which is singing a lullaby. At this point though, Sprinkles starts to really panic because that still didn't work for him, but he decides to go around and say goodnight to everyone since he's the only one awake. And with that, Sprinkles eventually falls asleep, discovering that that sleepy game worked for him. I won't lie to you, I was yawning the entire episode, and it was like 4 p.m. when I was watching, so this episode's techniques are definitely effective, which is weird to say because when I was little, I would always hear those things like, count sheep in your head. That did not work for me. I just can never shut off my mind. I have to take melatonin or I have to be seriously sleep deprived. But most of the time, I am just not a person who falls asleep that easily. The next episode is titled World Travelers, and it opens with Sprinkle by himself for once, playing with a plane and a car. He then points out how you could use them to go on a trip and how he wishes he could go on a trip. That then brings us to today's theme. Sprinkles proposes the idea that we go on a trip together and asks if we've ever been. After this, we go on our way to kind of figure out what we would need to take a trip. And on our way, we discover this mysterious chest, unlike the usual dress-up chest that we see. It's not alive and it needs 3 keys to be unlocked. The 3 keys end up being in 3 different locations on a treasure map: Antarctica, Brazil, and Egypt. So we get our trip after all, and Sprinkles ends up getting us a plane so we can travel anywhere and we're off on our adventure. This episode, oh my god, again with the cool set designs. These might be the coolest yet. Okay, season 2 is full of cool decor for the playroom in general, but this episode especially, my favorite was Antarctica by far. I loved in the rainforest too how there was even butterflies. The amount of detail was actually insane. Like, unlike the Arctic, which I still really liked, where Polka Dots was dressed up as a penguin, we actually see birds and frogs and butterflies in the rainforest. And I believe in Egypt there was a parrot. I highlight the other 2 and not Egypt as much because we didn't spend that much time there. Moving on to episode 7 though. Episode 7 opens with Blue and Sprinkles playing astronauts together and of course inviting us to join. However, shortly after this we see a string of numbers on the screen. This is because the Number Princess Puppy ends up paying the siblings a visit before she's about to blast off on a rocket ship. However, as they're helping her count down, the numbers start floating away. So Blue and Sprinkles decide to help her find the numbers. First we add number 7, which ends up being found with some constellations, so in the process we learn all about constellations. Then number 4, which is found on planet Venus, and then number 1 was a little more generic. It was just found with like a string of the planets, and they were all in a line and it kept like jumping around. As a reward for finding all the numbers, we actually get to join the princess on her number journey in space, and we get the this super cool scene of the gang flying through space and seeing like Robot Rory and Alien Joe on their way. And I know the green screen looks fake, like based off the cartoony environment of the show, but if you don't think about that, compared to the other green screens I've seen in like children's shows, Blue's Room did a really good job at making it look like we're really there. Also a good job in general of making it like the hosts are actually there in the Blue's Clues house. Cause that scene from Blue's Big Adventure where Josh is like dancing around goes crazy. Episode 8 titled Away, great playdate, Away. They're going away in this episode. It's a pun, but no joke, I was literally hearing Away, great playdate in like the outro theme, even though I know that's not what they're saying. Anyway, similar to the segments where Antonio would join Blue and friends, episode 8 features a child guest named Jalen. The trio, Sprinkles, Jalen, and Blue, decide to play Duck Duck Goose, and they also include Rory, Polka Dots, and Fred. Jalen then reveals his hat in preparation for the game, which is a duck hat, and I'm honestly obsessed with it. Like, tell me that's not camp? If you just did, you would be lying. It reminds me of two things. One, the duck from Pokio, and I hope I'm saying that right because I'm not remembering how to pronounce it at the moment. Fun fact, the dog in that show is named Lula. And two, if you've ever been to San Francisco and you've gone on one of those like duck bus tours where they give you like the duck whistles, the chokehold that duck whistle had on me needs to be explained. So I know for a fact that if you gave me this hat too, it would have been everything to me. Anyway, the game doesn't last long before Jalen actually has to go home, but back to the hat, everyone loves it, and he even lets Sprinkles wear it, so when he leaves, he ends up forgetting the hat, and that's very important in this episode. Blue and Sprinkles realize this, and the whole episode is spent going on a journey to Jalen's house, because they want to return the hat to him, obviously. In the process, they visit various places, starting off in the city where they meet some other kids before realizing, you know, oh, he doesn't live there, but they still learn new things in the process, and one of those things is they learn different methods of transportation, and after the train didn't work when they go to the city, the same thing happens on their next stop when they go to the beach and they take a taxi. They meet some other kids, they end up going on a hunt for seashells, but ultimately realizing, hey, he doesn't live here. The next method they use is a plane, which takes them actually to the right place, and then kind of bringing us full circle, the episode concludes with Sprinkles, Joe, Jalen, and Blue playing another round of Duck Duck Goose, but this time Sprinkles, who was too scared to be it, is it, and he has a great time. Because Sprinkles is the younger of the two, he is a little more shy and a little more hesitant to things, but I really like that they always have him try new things and he always really enjoys it. This next episode, episode 9, Little Red Riding Blue, actually goes back to our roots a little bit of like the reading books and then acting them out, only this time it's a generic tale, with Little Red Riding Hood. Instead of the dress-up chest choosing the book, Blue and Sprinkles were actually already reading it, so they just decided to go up to the dress-up chest and get some costumes. Blue ends up playing Little Red Riding Hood, Rory is the grandma, Fred is Little Red Riding Hood's mom, Joe is the wolf, and then Sprinkles plays too, but without a costume. He just decides to stick to the role of little brother. The difference with this and our usual storybook segments is it's not like a green screen with us reading the pages from the actual book. This time it's on like full sets. They have this really pretty like storybook kind of doodle for the woods, and it looks a lot more imaginative than the playroom actually just being decorated, in my opinion. As much praise as I've given that decor, I do have to admit it. Another thing they also make a reference to is dictionary in this episode. When they decide to make Grandma banana bread, the cookbook hops into the frame and then sings a little jingle similar to the dictionaries.
On dictionary, words are very fun to look up in me. If you like to cook, then I'm your book. Yeah, I've got great recipes.
And then we need to talk about Joe's acting in this episode. It absolutely definitely carries the whole entire thing. Once again, where's the Oscar? I'm waiting. He might as well be the wolf at this point. I'm convinced. This is a close second to the wolf from Hoodwinked, is all I have to say.
Blue, I see something. The wolf! Growl! Hello, Little Red and Little Red's friends. I am the wolf.
But it's really me, Joe. Pretend.
Ooh. Is that banana bread I smell?
Episode 10, Knights of the Snack Table, opens with everyone playing castle and Blue and Sprinkles dressed like knights. Fred is dressed like a princess and Rory is dressed like a wizard. And then Joe is dressed as the king. Joe ends up enlisting the siblings for help because his dragons have gone missing and he needs help finding them.
You see, I live in a castle with 4 dragons, and I love my dragons very much. But you see, they're missing. And I can't find them anywhere. Oh, woe is me.
First, they build a bigger castle with like a moat and stuff to find the green dragon. Then they make a magic potion to find the red dragon. After they find the doodle board and he helps them with this like doodle maze game to find the blue dragon. And then lastly, there's a series of these like scroll hints similar to Polka Dot's puzzle, but not, because like Polka Dots isn't involved. I guess this is more similar to when the Pentagon in the Shapes episode was giving them like hints or riddles, but they get this series of scroll hints to find the silver dragon. I know I'm not talking about this episode too much, but my favorite part has to be each time they find one of these dragons, besides the silver one, since, you know, the king joins them on that search, King Joe suddenly like spawns out of nowhere, ready to collect each dragon, and he has the same reaction of,
"Oh my gosh, my baby!"
What? What news is this? Did you find one of my dragons? You did?
Yes, here you go, King Joe.
Oh, my green dragon, I missed you so much. Thank you so much, brave knights. You found my red dragon? Oh, thank you, you did. You found my red dragon. Oh, I was worried sick about you. Are you feeling all right? Oh, no temperature. Well, for a dragon.
We found the blue dragon.
What? You did?
Yeah.
Oh, you did. Thank you, knights. Oh, the blue dragon, I missed you so much. No, I missed you more. No, I missed you more.
And lastly, we have episode 11 of season 2, titled Music Stars. This one opens with Blue and Sprinkles playing instruments, and Blue has a guitar and Sprinkles has a saxophone. Boogie Woogie, you should have seen this coming, it's music themed. He suggests that they should play Music Stars and be on a stage. Unfortunately, when they find the stage, the curtains won't open, and then Boogie Woogie says in order to open them, they have to sing, dance, and play music on an instrument. With this, the siblings enlist Rory on his like xylophone to join them and play an instrument. Then they have ABC Puppy help them find rhyming words for each song. Then Joe helps them learn some dance moves, and they put them all together and perform a great show. As is implied the whole time, there is an obvious age difference between Blue and Sprinkles. I mean, he's her little brother. It's specified, but like seeing them side by side doing like the dancing with Joe, oh my god, Sprinkles is literally a baby. He is adorable. I can't stress it enough. He's 5 apples tall, just like me. And there we have it. That was the entirety of Blue's Room. 2 seasons and 17 episodes later, with the last episode airing on March 29th of 2007, you are probably wondering, why did it fail? I feel like the common fault of spin-offs is that they are too different from the source material, so they struggle to gain the same kind of traction. 2 polar opposite examples that come to mind for me are the failure of Trolls and the success of Bunked. I talk about this further in my Trolls video, but Trolls with a Z was supposed to be a revival of the Troll Dolls IP with a new concept catered to girls during the 2000s. However, it was very much too different. Although looking back at it, the character designs are still incredibly cool, but they just look like human girls and not at all like trolls. As for Bunked, if you don't know what that is, it's the longest running Disney show ever. Don't pretend you're confused. I know you are. I am too. It's weird because this show started off as a Jessie spinoff with the Ross kids Ravi, Emma, and Zuri going to a summer camp called Camp Kikiwaka. To give you a timeline, this show premiered when I was watching Disney Channel back in 2015. I was 10, and now in 2024, I'm 19, and this show is officially ending at 7 seasons with a cast I do not recognize at all. Mr. Nostalgia actually has a great video on this topic, but to make a long story short, this concept is so easy to maintain, and that's why it's lasted this long compared to other classic Disney Channel shows that are arguably better. The concept of a summer camp makes it so that, like, when the kids age out of the roles, they can just get new kids. The Ross kids went from campers to counselors through the course of the series, for example, before they actually left entirely, but because the show was still so popular, they just switched out the kids. And you have to admit, that's a little genius. They could have really kept this running for much longer, as long as they liked, actually. Anyway, why are we talking about this? Well, the most plausible answer for the failure of Blue's Room to me is that the plan failed. Despite trying to, like, ease the audience into the show during season 6 of Blue's Clues, it still turned out to just be too different. Between that and the inconsistency of episodes during season 1, it was kind of set up for failure. What I mean by inconsistency is, as I said, we went from like the first episode to the third episode being a Christmas special, because we went from August, November to December in the span of 3 episodes. And for reference, I'm gonna put on screen like the difference of airing dates between season 2. It just reminds me of shows which, this is obviously a completely different vibe, GarageBand from Cartoon Network, where they had an audience. Like, I genuinely enjoyed that show, but due to the gap between the episodes, which were out of the creator's control, it was, you know, Cartoon Network's fault. People likely moved on to other things, and that just resulted in an extremely short-lived show. The Blue's Clues 10th anniversary special and the first episode of season 2 of Blues Room was probably an attempt to reel those people back in, introducing them to our main character, or our new main character, as I should say, and reintroducing Joe as a regular. But there's still that absence of various, you know, Blue's Clues regulars. Mr. and Mrs. Salt, Tickety Talk, Periwinkle, and even Magenta, I could easily picture like being a part of this show, and they had the opportunity to reintroduce these characters or include them in the show the same way they did with Joe in this like family episode. It would have been the perfect solution and attempt to kind of salvage it, if you will, but it's clear the concept they wanted to go with for this cast of characters was clearly Toys Come to Life, considering the fact that it is Blue's Playroom. And I don't think the new characters are bad necessarily. I found myself really enjoying them throughout my watch, more than I thought I would. But in comparison to characters people already knew and loved, they just kind of felt like bland, I guess. And I mean, prior to watching, I had forgotten all of them pretty much existed, except for Sprinkles. And that's just because of how often I hear people talk about him. Sprinkles isn't even referenced in Blue's Clues and You. He's just as obscure as like the rest of the cast, besides Polka Dots, of course. It's really strange. I love Sprinkles. He definitely seems to be the standout of the show for a lot of people. And while I love him, I didn't really think he was on like a whole different level or something compared to the rest of the cast. And speaking of that obscurity of this show and its characters, despite the obscurity that the show and its characters have kind of fallen into over the years, there are many references in the 2022 movie I mentioned earlier, Blue's Clues City Adventure. I mean, that movie is celebrating the 25th anniversary of the show, so I'd hope they'd reference Blue's Room. Even if it failed, it's a part of its history. Blue's Big City Adventure also bears a huge resemblance to Away Great Playdate, as we talked about, where Blue gets to travel to various places and talk to kids, the first place being the city. And I won't lie, my first thought watching that episode was Blue's Clues Big City Adventure. And whether intentional or not, I am actually glad that they revisited this idea, because I thought it was cool to see Blue actually interacting with kids in a real world setting. And obviously it's in a different way in Blue's Clues City Adventure because she can't talk, but I don't know, I just like the idea, it's really nice. But above all of that aside, there's just simply that concept of Blue being able to talk that seems to have fans split. Some people find it cute and enjoyed the aspect, while others found it creepy and felt the change was drastic and that she didn't need to talk. Reviews I found for the show were overwhelmingly positive, actually. I was kind of surprised, and the other handful of reviews were just like, Blue's Room simply didn't live up to the original. Nothing too negative. Well, that is besides this mixed receptions TV show wiki I found, where they just list everything as a bad quality of this show, while having 6 bullet points only for the show's like good qualities. My favorite one is, Joe cries over losing his dragons in Knights of the Snack Table. This makes him unlikable in the episode since what he did isn't even a big deal at all. He's also even more immature than he was in seasons 5 and 6 of the original. I refuse to think this person is actually being serious because, my god, is he not allowed to miss his dragons? Can he not be sad? The other thing this wiki does is they get so mad that the show has so many like cliche topics. For example, Beyond Your Wildest Dreams has the use your imagination cliche, but then they literally contradict themselves. Like further down the line, they list encouraging kids to use their imagination as a good quality of the show. I'm not actually taking this seriously, I just included it because I found it really funny. They literally claimed that Blue suffered from flanderization, which turned her into an annoying talking dog that never stops talking, and I'm 99% sure that's not what the term flanderization means, and it's being used incorrectly here. My guy, she never talked until this point. maybe give her a pass. Enough of that though. Anyways, let me know what you think about the show in the comments. I'm just very curious to know. This was much more of a divided topic than I realized. I find it interesting, you know, Prince Callum preferred season 2 while I preferred season 1, but we still share essentially the same take of like, it's understandable why this show didn't take off while still appreciating it for what it was. So yeah, there's not really a specific answer. There's various factors. I mean, we can even bring up that like this is the only Blue's Clues installment that Steve did not participate in.
Maybe that played a role, probably not.
But overall, I have to say, I don't understand the hatred for this show. Besides Blue talking being a bit unsettling at first, I was actually able to tolerate it. And in my mind, I really consider them two different entities, like Blue from Blue's Clues and Blue from Blue's Room. It really helps that I find the puppetry approach really charming, the playroom is well designed, and the characters are adorable. I truly think that's the common ground this show has, like with fans. Beyond the concept of Blue speaking, the show is just so visually appealing. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what memories you have of Blue's Room, and do you think the failure made sense? And what are your thoughts on this Blue's Room cast of characters? Do you like them? And if so, who's your favorite character? And with that, I will see you guys in my next video.
It was a great play date with you. Bye-bye.